There are serious health concerns for the legendary country singer Dolly Parton.
Dolly Parton's voice, once a beacon of hope and joy that carried millions through their brightest days and darkest nights, now trembles with a fragility that has sent shockwaves across the world. The news broke quietly, almost too quietly for someone who has filled stadiums and theaters with roaring applause for more than half a century. Yet behind closed doors in her Brentwood estate, Dolly's laughter has been replaced by soft sighs and unsteady breaths. Fans around the globe are asking, is Dolly Parton really saying goodbye? And for the first time in her legendary life, the answer feels unbearably close to yes. From the streetlights of Sevierville to the neon glow of Las Vegas, her journey has always been one of unstoppable light. But now, facing a diagnosis described by her doctors as terminal, Dolly confronts a different kind of stage, one where the curtains may never rise again. It was only a month ago that the announcement arrived. 6 shows at Caesars Palace in December quietly cancelled due to her deteriorating health. In a brief statement posted across social media, Dolly's words were crystalline in their candor. "My heart aches for every fan I disappointed, but right now, I can't give you the Dolly you know and love." Behind that simple apology lies a world of pain, routinely postponed doctor visits, whispered consultations with specialists, and restless nights spent listening to the hollow echo of Carl Dean's empty chair. At 79 years old, the queen of country music finds herself weakened by a relentless illness that shows little mercy. Friends speak of a woman who still clings to faith, yet whose once impenetrable spirit now carries the weight of uncertainty. To fully understand the magnitude of this moment, it helps to trace the path that brought her here. Born in a humble one-room cabin in rural Tennessee, Dolly Parton transformed childhood hardship into music that sounded of both hardship and hope. She penned Jolene in a single breath, tapped out I Will Always Love You through tears, and built Dollywood into an empire that lifts a city's heartbeat. Her imagination library has distributed over 1 million books a month to children worldwide. Charity runs through her veins, as surely as her melodies run through our memories. And yet no amount of song, nor philanthropic triumph could shield her from the ravages of time or the deep sorrow that followed the loss of her soulmate Carl. Carl Dean, the quiet force behind Dolly's spotlight, passed away 2 years ago after a long illness of his own. Those 6 decades of marriage, built on simple dates at McDonald's, midnight Taco Bell runs in Carl's trusty RV, and secret vows exchanged away from the glare of cameras, ended with a hush so profound that Dolly's world nearly collapsed into silence. Each morning, she wakes to find the world without his steady smile. The garden they planted together blooms in defiance of grief, but even the petals seem to bow under the weight of her loneliness. Friends who once marveled at her boundless humor now watch her pain with grim eyes. They know that when Dolly Parton bowed on stage in January 2025, clutching a fragile ballad dedicated to Carl, she was not just singing to an audience, she was singing to a memory. Health struggles have shadowed Dolly before. In the early 80s, a sudden collapse mid-performance led to the discovery of severe endometriosis that threatened her life and extinguished her dream of motherhood. A partial hysterectomy saved her body but left her spirit wounded, a wound she poured into future songs and charitable acts. Through each setback, surgeries, chronic pain, the devastating legal battles of her beloved family, Dolly emerged triumphant, her indomitable will shining brighter than any spotlight. She called music her medicine, her lyrics a lifeline. Yet now, that medicine feels out of reach. The halls of her home echo with unused lyrics and half-strummed guitars. What you will witness in the next chapters of this story is more than a chronicle of decline. It is an intimate portrait of a woman whose compassion and resilience have become the bedrock of her legacy. We'll trace Dolly's steps through sunlit memories and shadowed realities, hear from those who have stood beside her through triumph and tragedy, and most importantly, feel the heartbeat of her undying spirit. From the whispered vows in a Georgia church, through flashbulb moments at the Grand Ole Opry, to the quiet pew of Carl Dean's personal chapel, this story reveals the highs and lows that shaped a legend. You'll see how a microphone can both heal and reveal wounds, how faith and fandom intertwine, and why even at her most vulnerable, Dolly Parton remains a force to be reckoned with. Prepare for moments of profound sadness and sparks of enduring hope. In the face of news that Dolly Parton may be saying goodbye, we find instead echoes of her promise that love outlives loss, that music outlives mortality, and that the soul of an artist can sing on even when the body can no longer perform. So settle in, for this isn't just the story of a diagnosis, it's a testament to an undying flame that, no matter how dimmed, refuses ever to be extinguished. As the sun rises over the tranquil lanes of Brentwood, Dolly Parton's sprawling estate remains cloaked in an uneasy silence. The vibrant laughter that once filled the sunroom now drifts only through photo albums and memory. Each photograph tells a different story. Carl's wide grin as they posed by the Smoky Mountains, Dolly's shimmering gowns reflected in neon lights, the Imagination Library volunteers hugging book-laden boxes. Yet today, these images feel like fragments of another lifetime. The same home that echoed with midnight songwriting sessions now echoes with Dolly's gentle sighs and hushed prayers. She begins her day by kneeling at Carl's chapel, his empty pew a constant reminder of what she has lost. Only weeks ago, Dolly confided in her sister Frida that time itself had become her greatest adversary. She spoke of bargain bins of unwritten lyrics, of windows that no longer framed inspiration but rather the heavy hush of absence. Still, Frida sees glimpses of her sister's unbreakable will. Over tea in the kitchen they share, Frida watches Dolly gently smooth a scrap of paper, a half-finished verse she scribbled during a sleepless night. "I refuse to let that paper go," Dolly told her, "even if it holds the words of a farewell song." Out in the garden, rows of rose bushes bloom in defiance. Carl loved tending to each stem, whispering old country ballads while he pruned. Now Dolly stands among the blossoms with her guitar, her fingers tracing the contours of petals. For a moment she strums a quiet melody, a hymn to love that lingers only as an echo. Nearby, a small bench Carl built remains painted red, its weathered slats bearing the scars of summer storms and winter frosts. Dolly runs her hand along its worn edge, recalling a promise they made to each other. "Wherever we are, we'll plant beauty together." As the world consumes headlines about her health, Dolly finds solace in service. Staff at the Dollywood Foundation report how she secretly approved new reading programs, even from her hospital bed. Donors say her characteristic generosity persists. A hand-addressed letter arrived at Vanderbilt University pleading for more research into rare illnesses. Through volunteers she blessed with scholarships, Dolly's influence stretches far beyond any stage. She once told a young recipient, "I may not stand before you in person, but my heart stands beside you every step." Fans too have become an extension of her healing circle. Thousands of letters arrive each morning, fan art and streamers draped across her porch rails. Some bring hope in the form of prayers. Others recount stories of how Dolly's songs lit the darkest corners of their lives. A teenage girl from Ohio credits Jolene with giving her the courage to stand up to bullies. A Vietnam veteran in Texas wrote to say, "I will always love you," guided him home from war. Dolly's tearful gratitude comes through in rare video messages she records for her followers. Her voice soft but steadfast. "Your stories keep me breathing, yet behind each act of love lies a fresh undercurrent of fear." Physicians caution that Dolly's latest scans reveal progression despite experimental treatments. The same spirit that fueled nightly encores now must muster strength for simple tasks, making tea, climbing the porch steps, breathing deeply through pain. Nightly, she writes in her journal, "Every chord I try to play trembles, but my heart still knows the tune." That ongoing struggle underscores the stark contrast of her brilliance on stage and her fragility at home. This duality, unshakable star and vulnerable woman, has shaped her entire life. From her first cabin in Sevierville to concert halls seating thousands, Dolly has always danced along the edge between triumph and tragedy. She rose from rags to rhinestones, traded anonymity for autobiography, and wove her heartache into chart-topping hits. Now she weaves a new tapestry, that of a living legend confronting mortality with humility. Every gesture, from a gentle nod to her nurses to a gracious smile at well-wishers, becomes a testament to a spirit that refuses to bow quietly. In the next chapter, we will journey inside her closest circle, friends, family, and musicians who have witnessed her greatest victories and most private sorrows. We will hear how she fashions hope from hardship and why, even when lost in grief, her songs remain an anthem of survival. Dolly Parton's story is far from over. Each day she awakens with a song yet unfinished, and each night she lays down with faith in a promise she once made a young girl to sing until her last breath. Her journey is composed of melody, memory, and a heartbeat that reminds us love and music transcend the darkest days. Her closest friends describe the phone call they received that night as surreal. It was just after dinner, when Dolly's longtime guitarist, Rico Petrucci, heard her voice break for the first time. "I can't hold the guitar, Rico," she whispered, tears crackling like broken strings. The two had shared stages for decades, performing duets that soared from Nashville's Ryman Auditorium to the grandest arenas overseas. Now, a simple phone line carried the weight of an artist whose instrument was slipping from her grasp. Rico hesitated before replying, his voice thick. "Dolly, you've carried music in your soul all these years. Let that soul sing even if your hands tremble." That gentle encouragement became the bedrock for the story that follows, one of camaraderie, loyalty, and the unbreakable bonds forged by a lifetime spent chasing melodies under spotlight and stars. Across town, a small circle of session musicians gathered in a cozy West Nashville studio. They had come to record a private track Dolly insisted on laying down for her family. Producer David Malloy remembers the scene vividly. She walked in, pale as a moonbeam but determined. She sat on a stool, coughed once, then launched into the verses. The song, unheard by the public, chronicles her decades-long odyssey, weaving in memories of a childhood cabin, midnight drives with Carl, and the hush of hospital corridors. Each lyric is both confession and testament, a raw, unfiltered trace of a performer grappling with her own mortality. By the final chorus, her voice cracked. Petrucci, listening from the control room, wiped his eyes as he pressed record. That raw recording session underscores the duality of Dolly Parton's existence right now, an unstoppable creative force rendered vulnerable by the frailty of human flesh. It also highlights another truth: even when the world believes a star is setting, the act of creation can ignite one last blaze. Those musicians describe her as resolute. She refused multiple retakes, insisting that the first, most fragile take was the truest. When it was over, she leaned back and sighed, "That was me, all of me." They watched as she slipped her guitar into its case, her hands unsteady, yet her spirit unwavering. She reminded us why art matters, Malloy reflects, because it endures beyond pain. Meanwhile, her family remains her greatest anchor. Nephew Gabriel, who oversees the Imagination Library's expansion, recalls an afternoon when Dolly invited him into her home office. The room was lined with plaques, awards, and manuscripts, but Dolly focused on a single stack of children's drawings. Each one featured her in rhinestones, a smile across her face, sometimes with Carl by her side. "These are the real treasures," she told Gabriel. "They show me I've touched hearts, even the smallest ones." Gabriel squeezed her hand, aware that the trembling wasn't just from age, it was from the illness gnawing at her core. Yet her eyes shone with pride, a defiance stronger than any sickness. Local Nashville clergy have also noticed her unwavering faith. Reverend Martha Jenkins of Brentwood Community Church speaks of Dolly's regular visits to Carl's private chapel, where she lights a votive candle and reads aloud from Psalms. She wants to be alone with her thoughts and her God, Jenkins says. There's a peace in her ritual, but also a sadness you can touch. Jenkins once urged Dolly to meditate in a group session, hoping the collective prayer might bolster her spirits. Dolly politely declined, explaining, "My prayers are a conversation with Carl and the Lord. I need that to be private." And so she guards that sacred time, turning it into a lifeline that pulls her through the day. Behind the public eye, her philanthropic team scrambles to maintain programs she founded decades ago. Directors of the Dolly Parton Scholarship Foundation report late-night Zoom sessions, updating her on student applications and grant disbursements. Despite her frailty, Dolly listens intently to every detail, quizzing them on each candidate, where they're from, what they aspire to become, how many siblings they have. She remembers her own family of 12, the ache of wanting more children, but never having that chance. Today, she vicariously mothered thousands through scholarships and educational grants. She treats every student as if they were her own, says Foundation Chair Rebecca Caldwell. That's why she's our heartbeat. As this intimate portrait unfolds, another question emerges. Can an artist whose songs once lifted legions still wield her music as a balm for her own battered soul? The answer, as we'll see in the next chapter, resides in her unerring ability to transform personal pain into universal connection. From a tear-stained vocal booth to a candlelit chapel, from family living rooms to global classrooms, Dolly Parton's final act may not be a farewell but a testament to the enduring power of song. These stories of guitars gently coaxed into melody, of letters arriving like lifelines, of prayers whispered in solitude, outline the final movement of a career unlike any other. But this is far more than a chronology of decline or a valedictory tribute. It is a study in contrast, the shine of her rhinestone persona against the tender vulnerability of a woman confronting her end. It is an exploration of transitions, of youthful ambition giving way to seasoned wisdom, of public spectacle yielding to private contemplation. And above all, it is an affirmation that even as the curtain draws near, the essence of Dolly Parton, the humor, the compassion, the stubborn resilience, remains brilliantly alive. In the upcoming section, we will delve into a side of Dolly seldom seen, her reflections on legacy and the ways she hopes to orchestrate her own curtain call. We'll explore the initiatives she is setting up to continue beyond her physical presence, digital memoirs, archival projects, and family trusts designed to preserve her voice, her story, and her impact. Through conversations with her closest advisors, you'll witness how a legend plans for eternity even as she faces her final bow. Dolly Parton's legacy is unfolding right now, in real time, through a meticulous blend of technology, heart, and painstaking detail. In private meetings at her Brentwood estate, she has gathered a team of estate attorneys, music archivists, and digital innovators around a polished oak table. Bright legal pads and coffee cups share the space with storyboards and schematic diagrams for what Dolly calls her forever project. She lays out her vision with precision. Holographic performances of Jolene projected in arenas, interactive timelines weaving together audio diaries, candid interviews, and never-before-seen home video, and an immersive multimedia experience that brings future fans inside her world for generations. Not content with books and digital relics, Dolly is planning a series of tribute concerts titled Dolly's Garden, slated to tour major cities next spring. She has hand-picked performers from Maren Morris and Casey Musgraves to rising country and pop stars, tasking each to reinterpret one of her classics while sharing anecdotes projected on massive screens. Proceeds will benefit childhood literacy, women's health research, and mental health initiatives, echoing the causes closest to her heart. The set lists and stage designs are nearly finalized. A faux garden stage with blooming rose arches and lantern-lit paths symbolizing growth amidst pain. But it is within her private sphere that Dolly's most personal acts of legacy building emerge. She has recorded a series of video letters addressed to her grandchildren, scheduled to play on milestone birthdays, 16th, 21st wedding days, and graduate ceremonies. "Remember to be fearless," she says in one clip, her eyes bright despite the tremor in her hands. "Be kind even when it's hard, and never forget that love outlives goodbye." In considering her estate, Dolly has set up family trusts to ensure that her loved ones are cared for, even as she directs the lion's share of her fortune toward charitable endeavors. She personally reviewed trustee selections, choosing cousin Frida Parton as the head of the family council, with other seats reserved for longtime collaborators. No detail is too small. She has specified that her diamond-studded stage costumes be displayed in a rotating museum exhibition, with educational plaques explaining how each outfit connected to a song or era in her life. Through every step of this grand finale, whether drafting legal clauses, signing off on digital blueprints, or joking with her team about which hologram headpiece to wear, Dolly Parton exemplifies the very resilience and creativity that defined her career. Her terminal diagnosis may cast a shadow, but she faces it with the same blend of humility and tenacity that fueled her first recording session. She told one friend, "I may not get to see every idea born, but I'll know they can live on." As the sun dips below the Tennessee horizon, Dolly steps onto her porch with a glass of sweet tea, stationary and still, yet charged with purpose. The same woman who once looked out from a train platform in Nashville, determined to carve her own legend, now surveys a blueprint for eternity. Contrast framing pulses through every plan, fragility paired with ambition, memory harnessed as fuel for future dreams. And as we prepare to glimpse the final act of her journey, we sense that Dolly Parton is refusing not only to say goodbye but to transform farewell into an everlasting chorus of hope and compassion. Each morning, strangers quietly pause in their daily routines to share a moment of reverence for Dolly Parton's journey. Across airports, coffee shops, and living rooms, phones glow with reminders, "Pray for Dolly." A young mother in Kentucky presses her forehead to her children's drawings of Dolly in her mind, eyes brimming with tears. A retired teacher in Louisiana plays "I Will Always Love You" softly, letting the melancholy chords carry memories of love and loss. On the other side of the globe, in a cramped apartment in Manila, a university student clutches her degree, whispering thanks to Dolly's imagination library for giving her first taste of a book. These vignettes remind us of the vast landscape of lives Dolly has touched, and the collective hope that rises like a chorus whenever news of her condition surfaces. Amidst these outpourings, Dolly herself has found unexpected moments of solace in silence. She often retreats to an upstairs balcony overlooking the rolling hills of her Tennessee garden, wrapping herself in a cozy shawl her mother once knitted. There, she breathes in the scent of honeysuckle and magnolia, letting memories wash over her. She recalls her first tremors as a young girl, holding her family close through winter's chill, and contrasts those hardships with the current sting of diagnosis. In a rare journal entry shared with her closest friends, Dolly writes, "Some storms were predicted, but this one carries a different wind. Yet even when my voice falters, my heart still beats with songs unsung." Even as she sips her morning tea, each aroma seems charged with memory and meaning, a reminder that life's simplest comforts can carry profound solace. One of Dolly's most cherished rituals these days is the weekly broadcast she records for her radio station. Known as Dolly's Tennessee Hymns, each 15-minute segment weaves gospel classics, personal anecdotes and life lessons gleaned from 6 decades in the spotlight. To her listeners, it feels like an intimate conversation, a lullaby for the soul. Recently, she addressed her health head-on, managing to blend candor with optimism. "Some days I hear that my time is short, and my body protests every chord. Yet I choose to focus on the love in my life, friends, family, and you, dear listeners, who have carried me this far." In a world that often mistakes fame for invincibility, Dolly's openness about her struggles serves as a powerful reminder that courage can be found in the simplest truths. Beyond broadcasting and private recordings, Dolly's connection with fans has taken a surprising virtual turn. Late last month, she hosted her first live-streamed Q&A session, moderated by her niece. Fans submitted thousands of questions, from wardrobe secrets to insights about her early days in Nashville, and Dolly answered with her trademark wit. When asked if she felt scared, she paused, then smiled softly. "I've spent my life writing songs about heartbreak and joy. This is just the next verse." The chat lit up with heart emojis and affirmations, as viewers felt part of a global living room conversation. Though she couldn't physically greet each commenter, her responses carried a warmth that transcended screens. The session ended with Dolly singing a brief a cappella favorite, "Coat of Many Colors," her voice rising strong for one final chorus, a promise that her spirit remains undimmed. This fleeting concert lifted hearts across time zones. As her health fluctuates, Dolly's support team has crafted a daily rhythm that balances her need for rest with her desire for meaningful engagement. Mornings begin with gentle stretching, guided by a trusted physical therapist, movements designed to ease joint pain so she can navigate the halls she built alongside Carl. Late afternoons are tentatively reserved for short meetings, either reviewing final drafts of her memoir or tasting sample menus for the upcoming tribute concerts. Staff members quietly remind her when medication is due or when it's time to pause a project. She jokes that her calendar has become a baking sheet of to-dos, yet each entry is a lifeline, a small victory over inertia. And every evening, as dusk settles over Brentwood, she journals by the glow of a single lamp, tracing thoughts about time, love, and the songs that still await a final flourish.